At the end of the 1980s, an unidentified flying object was shot down at a Soviet military base. 5 beings came out of it, short in stature, with huge black eyes. A second later, there was a flash. According to the CIA report, 23 soldiers literally turned to stone. This is not a myth. It's an official document that today lies in declassified archives, and it's far from the only one. I've gathered everything we know. Ancient texts, archaeological findings, testimonies from military personnel and scientists. Let's try to figure out what's really going on. Hi, my friend, you're watching the Kurtop channel. Petrified soldiers. What would you think if I told you that in the USSR, a UFO was shot down and 23 soldiers literally turned to stone? No, this isn't a scene from science fiction. This is from a declassified CIA document archived after the Soviet Union collapsed. The location is unknown and the time is the late 1980s when Soviet troops were conducting exercises. A low-flying object appears in the sky, resembling a disc-shaped craft. One volley, and it's shot down. The craft crashes near the military base. A few minutes later, 5 beings emerge from it. They are short, with disproportionately large heads and black eyes. They merge into a single entity. A high-pitched buzzing sound is heard, a flash, and everyone nearby is turned to stone. The 2 survivors were standing in the shadow. Later, according to the report, the remains of the soldiers and the wreckage of the ship were delivered to a classified scientific base near Moscow. Researchers allegedly discovered that the structure of the bodies resembles limestone, as if their molecules had been rewritten. Official science, of course, will call this nonsense, but in the CIA document it's written in black and white. If this is true, we are dealing with beings that possess technologies beyond our understanding. UFOs are not a 20th century phenomenon. When we hear the word UFO, the 20th century immediately comes to mind. Roswell, movies, tin-foil hats. But the truth is, people saw unidentified objects long before the era of television and aviation. We have documented cases going back to the times of ancient Rome. Chronicles recorded fiery shields, flying ships, strange beings coming down from the sky, and even abductions in the clouds. All of this was recorded not by science fiction writers, but by historians, monks, and officials. In the 4th century AD, the Roman chronicler Julius Obsequens described dozens of such cases in his book Liber Prodigiorum. Over Rome, people allegedly saw blazing spheres, glowing ships, and beings that descended from the sky. At least that's how the eyewitnesses perceived it. Pliny the Elder also mentioned it. A mysterious burning shield that hovered over the city during the Second Punic War. And this is not the only case. Similar descriptions are found in the chronicles of Ireland, China, and India. What was it? A coincidence in symbolism? A mass hallucination? Or did we really observe the same phenomenon, just calling it different names in different eras? Once they were gods, then angels, today aliens. But the essence, perhaps, is one and the same. Religion, UFOs, and cosmic mythology. Today we divide the world into believers and skeptics. But there is one area where faith and science are strangely intertwined. That is ufology. Basically, UFOs are a new form of an old religion. Only instead of gods, there are beings from other star systems. Belief in aliens has become what belief in angels used to be. They come from the skies, they are more intelligent than us, and they often bring revelations. Philosopher Paul Kurz called ufology the mythology of the space age. He said that people need to feel that they are not alone, that someone is watching and possibly guiding us. In the past, this was done by God. Today, it's the Space Brothers. Psychologist Carl Jung wrote back in the 1950s that UFO images are a projection of the collective unconscious. Like, if in ancient times a person saw a shining angel in the sky, today he would see an alien ship there. The only difference is in the cultural interpretation, but the archetype is the same, a contact with something higher. But there are those who went further. Since the 1970s, real UFO religions have started to appear around the world. For example, the Raelian movement, founded by Rael, the founder of the Elohim Temple. He claimed that he personally met with aliens and even visited their planet. And there are dozens of such movements. People sincerely believe that we are a product of genetic engineering, created by an extraterrestrial civilization. Some are waiting for the second coming, others for the return of their creators. Charles Fort and the Hunt for Anomalies. When you look at the sky and see something unexplainable, you are not alone. 100 years ago, there was a man who dedicated his life to exactly such moments. His name was Charles Fort. He wasn't looking for proof. He collected oddities. Everything that didn't fit into science. Rains of fish, flashes of light in the sky, disappearances of people, reports of mysterious objects. He didn't explain. He just recorded. Because he knew. Sometimes the facts themselves are scarier than any theory. Ford was someone who didn't believe in either science or religion, because both ignored inconvenient facts. And that's exactly where the most interesting stuff lies. He used to say, between facts and fantasy, there is a zone where anything is possible. And this zone is real. We just don't know how to look there. People read his books in secret, as if they were forbidden. His ideas inspired dozens of movies and TV shows, from The Twilight Zone to The X-Files. He was the first to show that anomalies are not nonsense, but a misunderstood part of reality. You don't have to believe. What matters is not looking away. Now millions continue his work. Every time someone writes on the internet, I saw a glowing object. It hovered in the sky. Then it disappeared. That's Fortianism, a culture where the strange is something to investigate, not dismiss. But there is another side. We are doubting everything more and more, and we know less and less what to believe at all. And this is no longer just a hunt for anomalies. This is already a symptom. A message in DNA. We send radio signals into space. We probe distant stars. We build giant antennas in the hope that someone might answer. But maybe all this time the answer has already been here, not somewhere in the sky, but inside ourselves. In 2013, two Kazakh scientists, Vladimir Sherbak and Maxim Makukov, put forward an idea that sends chills down your spine. They studied the structure of DNA and noticed strange, repeating numerical patterns. Too precise, too orderly. One number appeared especially often, 37. And it didn't show up by accident, but in key places of the genetic code, as if someone left a signature right inside us. Their hypothesis: DNA is not just an instruction manual for building a human, but also a time capsule. A message, ultra-durable, passed down for millions of years. A message from those who were here before us, or from those who created us. Sounds crazy? Maybe. But we do the same thing ourselves. We send a golden record aboard the Voyager probes. We put messages in bottles. We dream of being found. Why couldn't someone else have done the same? Now imagine, maybe we are that very bottle. We just haven't learned to read what's written on it yet. We've been under observation for a long time. If we're looking for signals, it's logical to assume that someone might be looking for us too. But what if they've already found us a long time ago? In 2020, a group of astronomers published a study that changed the very way the question was posed. Scientists from Cornell University studied the surroundings of Earth and identified 1,400 star systems from which our planet can be observed as it passes across the disk of the Sun. In other words, to see Earth the way we see exoplanets. Their main conclusion is simple. If there is intelligent life in one of these systems, they might know right now that we are here. Moreover, 508 of these star systems are positioned so that Earth would be visible against the background of the Sun for more than 10 hours in a row. That's enough to detect an atmosphere with oxygen, methane, and possibly signs of life. They could have detected us thousands of years ago, watching, waiting, or maybe they've already sent a signal that's still traveling. The SETI project is a global network of radio instruments. Tracking anomalies and signals from the depths of space, we've listened to thousands of systems, but so far, silence. Modern scientists are cautious but not skeptical. No one laughs anymore at those who say, maybe we're not alone, because the number of planets suitable for life is in the billions. When UFOs became a matter of state concern, antiquity isn't the place where you'd expect bureaucracy documenting UFOs, but in Rome, it existed. The priests had direct access to power, and they kept official chronicles of omens. Everything that happened in the sky was seen as a message from the gods. And if a blazing shield flew over the city, it was considered a political signal. Gaius Julius Obsequens, a Roman historian, collected such reports in the Prodigiorum Liber. And the list looked eerily familiar. Glowing discs, moving lights, figures in the sky that hovered and disappeared. This isn't folklore. This is official state reporting. The wildest part is that sometimes Based on these phenomena, the Senate would overturn decisions, start wars, or conversely, make peace. Because if a sign came from above, you were obliged to respond to it. One of these signs was the disappearance of King Romulus. The founder of Rome was supposedly taken up into the sky right in front of the crowd. He didn't die, he didn't run away. He literally ascended. So Rome has a god founder who came from up there. This isn't about whether they believed in UFOs. It's about how seriously they took these things. The ancients couldn't explain what it was, but they didn't ignore it either. And today we do the opposite. We know that not everything is clear, but we pretend that everything is fine.
No.
UFOs of the Third Reich. If all this talk about ancient UFOs seems too mythical, then this story is much closer to our time and is far more frightening, because we're going to talk about technologies that were supposedly developed in Nazi Germany during the last years of the war, and about a secret that neither the Allies nor history could take away. The Nazis really did create incredible things, from the first ballistic missiles to jet aircraft, but there is a separate layer of theories that claim flying machines of unimaginable shape and power were being developed in hidden bunkers of the Reich. They are called Haunebu, Vril, and the most mysterious of them all, Die Glocke, the bell. The bell is not just a piece of technology. It's a legend surrounded by rumors, disappearances, and strange deaths. According to rumors, the object was a metallic machine about 4 meters tall, shaped like a bell, which could distort space and time. An anti-gravity engine, powered by some kind of black energy that killed the project's staff. Some claim that Die Glocke disappeared along with the SS elites who went to Antarctica, to a mysterious area called New Swabia. There, in the inaccessible icy depths, a base was supposedly built, from which a new era began. According to other versions, the bell was found by the Americans and transported to the United States. That's why there were strange leaps in technology after 1945. It's hard to believe until you start looking at the memoirs. Documents and strange activity in the Antarctic region in the late 1940s are classified. Some even link this to Operation High Jump, the largest polar military expedition in the U.S., officially for research purposes, but according to unofficial sources, it was to intercept surviving Nazis with UFO technology. Historians, of course, deny all this. But the question remains, where did dozens of scientists, engineers, and prototypes disappear to? Why is there so little information about this, even after almost 80 years? Military abductions and secret bases, thousands of stories, hundreds of memoirs, and they're all about the same thing. The contact had already happened. But not in front of the world, not live on air. It happened in the shadows. Classified, top secret. One of the most discussed cases is the story of Charles James Hall, a U.S. Air Force veteran who served at Nellis Base in Nevada. He claims he worked side by side with aliens, whites, grays, and even Nordics, tall humanoids similar to humans. According to him, the whites could live up to 700 years, and the contact was officially as a technology exchange. According to another version, the U.S. authorities allowed the aliens to temporarily base themselves on Earth, supposedly for the sake of technology exchange. A Cold War-style deal. You give us something, we give you something. But what exactly did humans give away? Genetic material? Permission for abductions? Yes, abductions. In the 1960s, a whole wave of stories about nighttime visits, examinations, implants, and orders broke out in the US and Europe. They were left with scars and fragments of memories. Many of those abducted were not fanatics or ufologists. They were doctors, military personnel, engineers, people who suddenly knew too much. Today, these stories are ridiculed or ignored. But one fact remains: there are too many accounts to simply dismiss them as mere imagination. How UFOs became the new religion. We live in a world where aliens are no longer science fiction, but almost routine. Movies, YouTube, Telegram channels, merch. Aliens are not just a topic, they're a cultural phenomenon that has long gone beyond the boundaries of ufology. But how did this happen? It all started back in the 20th century, with books, rumors, and strange reports where miraculously surviving footage supposedly showed alien corpses, and classified sources surfaced with confessions about experiments at Area 51. Then there were talk shows, investigations, documentaries, scandals, and all of this stopped being marginal. It became mainstream. For example, the fake footage of the Roswell alien autopsy, a complete hoax made in the 90s, got millions of viewers, and it was exposed as a fraud. So what? It only strengthened the fans' beliefs. Yeah, if they're working so hard to hide it, the truth must exist. Charles Ford, the father of this whole movement, said back at the beginning of the century, science rejects too much and the official explanation isn't always the truth. His ideas inspired a whole generation of anomaly hunters. He said if strange things are happening, then our picture of the world is wrong. Today, science, politics, and religion all cause skepticism. But for some reason, people trust aliens more than they trust governments. Reality seems to have changed. UFOs are a new mythology, a new religion. Only instead of angels, there are grays. Instead of prophets, there are contactees. Instead of sacred books, there are forum posts, TikToks, and leaked reports. And you know what's the scariest part? This belief is already controlling society. In 2023, the topic of UFOs was seriously discussed in the U.S. Congress. Hearings, reports, generals at the podium, and no one was laughing because the meme became reality. In this world, where everything can be fake, aliens have become a symbol of truth or the search for it. It's paradoxical, but it's a fact. What kind of aliens did the ancients see? When people say aliens, they usually imagine gray humanoids with big eyes. But in ancient texts, frescoes, and myths, the images are completely different. These are fiery chariots, bird people, shining gods who came from the sky. They are not always strangers. Sometimes they are our creators, sometimes mentors. Sometimes they act as punitive forces, erasing civilizations from existence. The Sumerians had the Anunnaki, the Dogon had the Nomo from the planet Sirius, the Hindus had gods who flew on Vimanas, the Mayan Indians had Quetzalcoatl, the feathered god who came from the east and promised to return. All of them are described as higher beings who came from somewhere else and then went away. Coincidence? Or did every ancient civilization have contact, but with different manifestations of the same intelligence? Maybe it's not just aliens in a flying saucer, but something much more complex, an intelligence that manifests itself in a way that the observer is ready to perceive. Hundreds of witnesses, but only a few believe. We're used to thinking that all UFO encounters are just stories from individuals. Someone saw something, someone thought they saw something. But history also knows of mass sightings and official investigations. For example, the Fatima apparitions in Portugal in 1970, tens of thousands of people saw the sun dancing in the sky, changing color and size. The church recognized it as a miracle, but ufologists think otherwise. The descriptions of the events suspiciously resemble the behavior of UFOs. Or the case in Knock, Ireland, in the 19th century. Large numbers of people saw shining figures appear near the church, hovering in the air, and again there was a religious explanation. But Jacques Vallée, a well-known ufologist, cites these cases as typical examples of the influence of an external intelligence on the human psyche. He does not deny that the phenomena are real. He simply asks the question, why do they repeat but in different forms? If in the past people saw the Virgin Mary, today they see gray humanoids, and tomorrow maybe they'll see something else? When non-gods came from the sky. There is a strange pattern in human history. Almost every religion begins with the appearance of something from the sky. Someone hears a voice, someone sees a light, and someone makes contact with a shining being. Why? This is a modern description of encounters with UFOs. Ufologist John Keel, in his book Operation Trojan Horse, writes that all these beings from the past are the same ultra entities people report today. They simply adapted to the culture of the era. In the past, angels, archangels, heavenly chariots. Today, humanoids in silver suits. The essence is the same. Keel claimed that they are able to heal, predict events, and cause mass visions. The same thing happened in biblical times. Some of these contacts grew into entire movements and cults, like Raelism, where it is directly claimed that humanity was created by aliens. The founder of the sect, Claude Vorillon, claims that he had an encounter with a UFO, visited another planet, and received instructions from there. So where is the line between religion, a cult, and contact with a non-human intelligence? Or maybe it's all the same thing, just explained in different words. UFOs and hoaxes. One of the most sensational stories is the so-called Roswell alien autopsy. That very video where a strange creature with a huge head is lying on a table and doctors are pulling something out of it. Back then in the 90s, the footage was shown on television to millions of people. Almost everyone believed it, but later it turned out to be staged. The creator of the video, Ray Santilli, later admitted that yes, the film was a recreation and the real footage was supposedly lost. But he still claims that he saw the original, and the footage matches what was shown to CIA employees. And here's what's interesting. Even after the confession that it was a fake, people continued to believe in it. Moreover, a fragment is being sold as an NFT for $1 million. Why all this? What does a fake achieve? It creates the essentials: buzz, attention, belief, and money. The more noise, the harder it is to distinguish the truth, and the easier it is to replace reality with speculation. And here's the question. If even lies work to strengthen belief, who is blurring the lines between facts and fakes, and why? Ancient Rome and UFOs. When you think about UFOs, you think of the USA, Area 51, maybe even the USSR. But ancient Rome, who even connects antiquity and aliens? It turns out not just science fiction writers. There is a real historical source, the Book of Omens by Gaius Julius Obsequens. It describes dozens of celestial wonders, glowing shields, floating ships in the sky, flying figures, and strange creatures. Plutarch, Livy, even Pliny the Elder, all of them wrote about this. From their perspective, they viewed these as omens, punishments, or the God's will. But honestly, what did they know about technology? Imagine seeing a round, shining object in the sky, and you don't know what an engine, glass, or metal is. How would you describe it? Only through myth and fear. In Rome, there was even an official priest, a pontifex, who recorded all such things in the Annales Maximi Chronicle. And if he saw what we now call a UFO, he would have recorded it as a shining omen or a burning circle in the sky. Now think about it. What if he really did see it? The conclusion is simple. The ancients were not foolish. They simply described the unknown in words they understood. And we, 2,000 years later, are starting to recognize these descriptions.
Кое-что знакомое.
Do we have a chance to learn the truth? After all this, a logical question arises. Will we ever actually find out what's really going on? Thousands of testimonies, pilot reports, military documents, strange ancient artifacts, and coincidences in myths and religions all over the world. Even NASA is no longer brushing it off, but is creating special commissions. The US Congress is holding hearings on UFOs. Something is definitely happening. But here's what remains behind closed doors. And this is probably the scariest part, because the more you dig into the topic, the more you realize not all the evidence is out in the open. And perhaps the key to understanding is not in science fiction, but in the very structure of how humanity processes the unknown. In religion, in myths, in fears, in technologies that came too early, like in the case of the ancient battery from Iraq, or the laser polishing of Egyptian stones, or the perfectly even blocks in Pumapunku. None of this is proof of UFOs, but these are unexplained things. Does it mean that someone visited us, or are we just seeing in history what we want to see? But what if all of this is true? Let's be honest, what if all of this isn't just coincidences, myths, and fantasies? What if someone really is watching us? What if we're not the pinnacle of evolution, but just one of the projects, one of the experiments in a long series? What if ancient people really did communicate with those we call gods, but in fact they were actually in contact with those who came from somewhere else? What if religion, prophecies, signs in the sky, even our very origins are all part of one big story that has been hidden from us? Or maybe it's a story we're just not ready to understand yet. Or maybe they're not ready to make direct contact with us. There are too many coincidences, too many mistakes in official history, too many phenomena that are easier to ignore. But one day, all the pieces might come together. After all, as Carl Sagan wrote, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. I'm not claiming that all these stories are true, but turning a blind eye to them means missing something important. Because maybe it's in these fragments, in these anomalies, in these inconvenient questions that the truth is hidden, a truth we're not yet able to perceive. I don't want to believe blindly, but I also can't ignore it when the same images appear all over the world, from different eras and different cultures, flying ships, glowing entities, contacts with gods who taught, punished, disappeared, and might possibly return. People have always wondered where we came from, but what if the answer is already there and we've just been looking in the wrong place? And if we're not alone, then who is watching us from the sky